So I just finished watching the first 3 episodes of season 2 of Young Justice, and let me just say, my head is absolutely spinning. Let's talk about it. What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel and another breakdown episode. But this time, when it comes to season 2, we're going to be doing something a little different. We're going to be breaking down each episode in bulk. So instead of doing one singular episode at a time, we're going to be doing 3 episodes kind of a piece and giving a bit of a broader understanding, as I feel like every 3 episodes something major kind of happens that's worth talking about. But before we get into that, if you guys do enjoy the breakdowns and the kind of discussion style videos that we do as we're watching through Young Justice, you already know what to do. Dropping a like on this video greatly helps out the channel. Subscribe if you're new here. If you guys want to see the full reactions to every episode as we're watching them over on season 2, you can check out my Patreon. I'll put a link to that in the bio of this video. And without further ado, let's not waste any time. Let's get into the meat and potatoes that is the first 3 episodes of season 2. Now, starting off with episode 1, this is probably what I would still consider to be, even after watching episode 2 and 3, it's what I would consider to be kind of the biggest episode that has happened in a while. And you guys know season 1 presented a lot of big changes, a lot of big reveals, especially in the final 5 episodes of that season, and presented a lot of questions that I was hoping would get answered when it came to starting season 2. But season 2 came around, said, you know what, forget all of that, we're not touching on a lot of those things. Even more changes have happened as we are presented with one of the biggest reveals that we've seen in a while, a 5-year time skip. Now, I'm not gonna lie to you guys, this time skip, it kind of caught me for a loop. It's not something I was expecting at all. I thought they were literally going to pick up with the big question that was presented at the end of season 1, that being, what did the Leaguers that were missing for 16 hours do? And exactly how does this relate to the light, Vandal Savage's grand schemes, and all that kind of stuff. But that still seems to be a big pervading question that has presented itself over the course of this season. But it's one that a lot of time has passed, and we've seen 5 years time pass. We've seen some of the iconic characters like Robin take on a different role, now becoming Nightwing. We've seen new members come into the fold. We've seen members that we haven't seen yet, the members that were a part of the original team kind of disappear and have slowly been presenting themselves in new roles and kind of new rapidly changing character dynamics. And when we talk about a lot of these changing dynamics, there's obviously been a lot of big changes. A lot of the characters have changed, kind of their positions and their roles. And like I said before, guys, I really wasn't expecting many of those big changes. A lot of what was presented, even in the first couple episodes and the first couple minutes of season 1, were moments that really took me for a loop. I mean, seeing these massive, team changes and relationship changes, obviously being one of them being, them coming off of a mission, and then seeing that, Megan is with someone else. I mean, those moments, like, the show does a really good job of glossing over these things. They're moments that, like, if you're really paying attention, and you really don't have to be paying that much attention, they're big changes that reveal themselves. But I feel like they're things that can almost be easily missed. Like when we get to the end of season 1, we see that Megan and Connor are as thick as thieves. I mean, they're as close as they possibly can be. And so to get to a moment in episode 1 of season 2 and see that they're no longer together, that begs a question. And then seeing certain characters that aren't there anymore, like where's Wally, where's Artemis, like that begs a question. Where's Red Arrow? There was a big question about Red Arrow at the end of the first season, and so that begs a question. So the season, one thing I will say is I am very confused. I'm very confused at what we're seeing. But I know that, the show, what I like about it, does a really good job of planting questions, planting seeds, these little nuggets of doubt where you kind of log these questions and you're like, wait, what's that about? What's going on over here? What's happening in this pot? It does a great job of planting those seeds of questions and then kind of getting to them later. So I do know, and I feel confident that over the course of the season, these questions will be answered. But I will say it's one of my favorite parts about it, even though it is kind of frustrating, all these questions that have presented themselves, is kind of how the show has really set the foundation for this new season. That this isn't season 1.5. This is almost in many ways what you want from a new season. You want there to be massive changes. You want there to still kind of feel like it's the same identity of the show, but at the same time, you also want it to feel like the show has moved in a completely different direction. It's a different tone. It's a different feel. And that is very much what I feel like when I'm going through and watching the second season of Young Justice. And people warned me, I had a lot of comments because I check out all of you guys' comments in each of the videos. And one of the main comments was that, get ready for season 2. There's, it feels very different than season 1, but I wasn't sure how different. So I kind of logged that in the back of my mind, but I went through at the end of season 1, ready and excited for season 2, kind of having that comment in the back of my mind that like, it might be different. But without knowing how different it's going to be, you're not really sure what to expect. And even after getting to the reveal of what is different, I can honestly say, like, I was not expecting a time skip. I didn't expect there to be 5 years has passed. And, it's kind of an interesting approach to the series, and one that I really wasn't expecting, but one that I kind of, even after watching the first couple episodes, I kind of welcome it. It's something you want to see. I didn't want the show to be super Young Justice forever. I wanted there to be a little bit of change between each season, where it feels like, it's like when you're in elementary school or middle school, right? And you go away for summer vacation and it feels like it's a lifetime. I feel like that's probably what a lot of people who were watching this show at the time were going through. And so you had to wait probably months before you got into the new season. And when you finally get into it, it's kind of like, okay, like this is, it feels different. It feels like a new season. So, I don't want to say that I don't want it to sound like the changes that we've experienced in the first season together, or the second season really have changed the way I feel about the show. It's just, it's a lot to take in. And I would say that the first 3 episodes as a whole really are kind of shell-shocking. Now let's talk about episode 2. This is an episode that features, really focuses on Megan and Connor, and a few other additions to the show. Obviously, one of those additions being Beast Boy, as they explore the planet of Ran in search of answers, I think, involving what exactly was the missing Justice League members. What were they up to over those 16 hours? So that's really the focus of the episode, but it's what is revealed in this episode, and some, major changes that were touched on that really raised some questions for me. One of those questions centering around Megan and Connor and their, kind of dissolved relationship. Throughout the episode, it clearly feels like there still are feelings there, and that these two characters still do have a lot of love for one another. See, when you think about that, it still begs the question, well, why exactly did they break up in the first place? And in an emotional conversation that, Connor has with one of the other kind of guest members on the episode, whose name I can't fully remember, he reveals that, he discovers that he can't physically age, like he's aging internally. So he is in a way getting older, but he can't physically age. And so I guess that resulted in him feeling the need to break up with Megan. But, it's one of those things that the show does where when it reveals bits and pieces of information, it doesn't exactly reveal the whole picture. So you're still left with questions. Like, even though we found out what the kind of general reason is why he breaks up with her, there still is kind of this over-pervading question of like, well, what exactly was it about the fact that he can't age that made him want to break up with Megan? Is it an insecurity that he has internally where he feels like, okay, she's going to get older physically, and, I'm never going to look like we're getting old together? Maybe that's it. Or maybe it's something deeper that they haven't fully revealed yet. So, there still were some questions that I was having, regarding that relationship, and questions that I'm hoping that they'll answer, at some point throughout the course of the season. But then another major thing that we see when it comes to Megan is the fact that she's able to kind of, she's evolved, and she's, obviously we knew that at the, halfway through season 1 that she had some abilities, and she was able to do some things that, we weren't necessarily sure the extent of her power. But after episode 14, we knew that she had great power. And it seems like over the past 5 years, she's kind of come to master her abilities a little bit in a way that's almost scary, in a way that I think Connor has been aware of. And when we see this moment where she puts one of the Krolitans in like this comatose state and basically siphons their memories and finds out exactly what they were up to, but it comes at a cost because it puts them in this kind of like, zombie-like state. It seems like that's something that Connor has seen before over the past 5 years, maybe even something that he's aware of. And so that potentially, in my mind at least, presented some questions as to maybe that's why he broke up with her, because she was, maybe doing some things ethically that he really didn't agree with. Obviously, these are just theories, right? I'm sure, those who have seen the show know exactly how this plays out. These are obviously just my predictions and theories based on what I'm seeing in the first couple episodes. And in season 2, I feel like there's so much more to the reason why Megan and Connor are no longer together that has yet to fully be revealed. But it's one that I really want to know about, and one that, you know, has questions that I'm hoping will get answered soon, because, you know, those were two of my favorite characters. I felt like they made a great team. Their relationship was one that didn't necessarily start off great. They didn't, you know, Connor really was not receptive to Megan and her abilities at the beginning of the show. But fast forwarding towards the end of the, you know, kind of halfway through the show, you know, you really see them start to understand each other and get to a point where you feel like Megan really is the one that understands Connor the best. And so, you know, that was a relationship that I really enjoyed, and one that I was very excited to see kind of grow and blossom. So to see the start of season 2 and the fact that two of my favorite characters are no longer together, it's one of those things that's hard to watch. And I would say that's probably, for me, the most encompassing feeling that I've had watching season 2 is there's been a lot of moments that are really hard to watch. It doesn't seem like anybody over the past 5 years has gotten better or experienced better things over the past 5 years. It feels like everybody over that time has really kind of struggled and suffered and felt loss and pain. And that has resulted in everybody kind of going their separate ways, despite how close they felt, you know, in the first season. Now, I bring this up because I feel like this is not only something that was hard, I'm sure, for many of you to watch, but it's hard for me to watch too, because I literally just finished the first season. And it's not to say that over months, if we had to wait months from season 1 to season 2, that it would have made these transitions better, but it feels like a shell shock going right from the events of season 1 to season 2, which feels like ultimately, you know, a much dramatically different show. It begs a lot of questions, and it leaves a heavy pill to swallow at the end of every episode, as you feel like after every episode, you're kind of feeling a little like taken aback a little bit, because you're like, wait, I came to know these characters as one thing, seeing them in this light, and now I have to like kind of readjust how I see them to, you know, compensate and like consider a 5-year time skip and how much these relationships have changed over time. And so, you know, I will say that's kind of the hardest part about this new season is just how dramatically different it feels. But, you know, I'm hoping that there's obviously some good things that have happened out of that time. Move into episode 3, guys, where even more heartbreak is presented, even more changes are presented. And I would say episode 3 is really, it was kind of the reason I decided to make the breakdown of these 3 episodes, because I feel like within this 3, we've seen some major changes, and there's been a real true kind of theme that has been presented, which is heartbreak, loss, change, and so many other things. So one of the big events that happens in episode 3 is obviously continuing to hunt for the Krolitans. They find themselves going up against, you know, Black Manta, or at least a soldier Black Manta. I'm not sure what the soldiers are called. I know that the main boss, the big bad, is the Manta or Black Manta or something like that, and everyone else who kind of wears those armors, I'm assuming, is like, you know, kind of like top tier elite soldiers or something, or maybe they're all Black Manta. I don't know. So let me know if you guys know about that kind of delineation between those characters in the comment section. But obviously you find out that one of them who's battling it out is the one and only Aqualad, and this is the first time we see one of the main characters outside of the core group that we've seen. Obviously, we've seen Megan, we've seen Connor, we've seen Robin, who's now Aqualad, or who's now Nightwing, but we haven't seen Aqualad, Artemis, you know, obviously Kid Flash, and so yeah, this is the first time we're seeing one of the additional members finally be presented, and we find out that he's a villain. Not only that he's a villain, but apparently 5 years ago, he experiences one of the greatest tragedies, one of the greatest losses that you possibly could, and that's the loss of someone that he loved and cared very deeply about, being Tula. Now, I'm not sure if at this point in the series, if, you know, like after 5 years had passed, I'm not exactly sure if Tula and Aqualad had found themselves back to one another. And although, you know, in episode 8, I believe, you know, she comes to admit that she's with Garth, I don't know if maybe she and Aqualad found themselves together, and she finds herself dying, you know, in a mission that seems to have gone wrong. And that results in Aqualad kind of separating himself from the team and aligning himself with the enemy. Now, guys, I will say this was easily one of the biggest reveals of the season so far, and I feel like it barely scratches the surface of the potential things that we'll come to find out and learn about many of the characters and the changes over the past 5 years. But man, this was not one I was expecting. I figured Aqualad would maybe return to Atlantis or something, but I never expected that he had become a full-on villain. And so yeah, guys, I feel like there's been a lot of big changes this season. There has been some moments where I genuinely question exactly if the team that we saw back in season 1 ever will kind of return to being the team that we've come to know and love over that 26 episode season back in season 1. Because the team that we're seeing now in season 2, it seems so different, and different in ways that I can't even fully describe, different in ways that I feel like it's hard to process a little bit. But I am hopeful that somehow, some way, a greater threat will present itself that will kind of force our team to, you know, kind of come back together and be a unit like they were back in the good old days, which, you know, for us who've been watching the show right now together has been like a week ago. And so it's in that aspect that, you know, these changes have presented, you know, kind of a difficulty in being able to process, you know, the show and especially the events of season 2, because it doesn't feel like a lot of time has passed, at least for us. But, you know, for many of the characters, there's a ton of time that has passed. And so, you know, that part is a little bit difficult to process. But overall, guys, outside of the initial shell shock that has been season 2, I will say that I have enjoyed the season a lot. I feel like there's been, you know, the changes that have been presented are good changes. You know, I like that the team is older. I like that they have, you know, kind of all gone to do a little bit of different things. You know, whether it be changing their look or changing their you know, alliance, you know, more or less. I feel like I have liked the changes for the most part. You know, I'm just hoping that, you know, in the next couple episodes, maybe 4, 5, 6, before we do our next breakdown of that batch of episodes, that, you know, we do see a few more of the key characters that I've been missing. I'd love to see what Artemis has been up to and how she's kind of combated, you know, her father and you know, her sister and all that stuff. So, you know, I would love to know what exactly has gone down the last 5 years for some of the other characters. But as far as what we've seen for these 3 big changes, guys, huge changes, and ones that I think are going to stick with us for a while as we go into the latter episodes. But so far, guys, it's been a great start. And again, I just wanted to do this kind of breakdown video to give you my first impressions and thoughts on season 1 or season 2 so far as it's presented itself, and, you know, many of the changes, and kind of, you know, hopefully do that, and, you know, when we finish episodes 4, 5, and 6, as we continue to talk about exactly some of the things that have changed, the dynamics and all that stuff, as we move on through, you know, some of the other episodes as well. But if you guys enjoy the breakdowns and you want to see more just like this, be sure to drop a like on it, this video, as it really helps the video get seen by more people. Again, if you want to check out the full uncut, you know, reactions of this series, obviously, you know, you can get, you know, kind of the cut versions here, but on my Patreon you can find the full uncut versions if you guys want to check those out. I've really been enjoying the new format that we've been using for them, and hopefully you guys are enjoying them as well. And again, I really appreciate the support you guys have shown on this channel and this series. It really does mean a lot. I'm super grateful and have been really enjoying myself when it comes to watching this show and the second season with you guys. I'm really talking about it in each and every episode. So that's all for me, guys. I'm going to jump back into watching season 2, episode 4. And so be on the lookout for that to drop relatively soon. But I'm excited to share with you guys and kind of see how everything progresses and all that stuff. And yeah, really excited to continue talking about this show with you guys. As always, guys, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next episode.
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.